AI is helping us identify vulnerabilities in our critical infrastructure.
It's really, really good at finding those vulnerabilities for your teams that are supposed to be identifying and patching those vulnerabilities. So of course people are worried about them.
Our chief AI officers were listening as to what should they be doing and what should they be worried about.
This place is changing constantly, and being ahead of it, I feel like we're on a treadmill and this treadmill is getting faster. But continuous learning is always the top thing. You want to make decisions based of knowledge and not just guessing of what you're hearing at the water cooler and other people telling you.
Welcome to the CAIO Podcast, where we talk to leadership, where leadership meets AI. And today we have unusual guests with us. Usually we talk to people who are framing enterprise policies at enterprises. Today we're talking to people who do actually consult with those leadership and provide advice to them as to what they should within the enterprise. So Steve, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and then please hand it off to her.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Suarez. I am the CEO of a company called Verizon X. We do strategy work in quantum computing, AI, and innovation. I used to be at a bank, so I'm a recovering banker, 20 years at HSBC.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Krauthamer. I'm CEO of QSecure, and we do the cybersecurity side of quantum computing. My background's in AI. I studied AI, and then I got into quantum via the gateway drug of AI, and now cybersecurity.
Fantastic. So for both of you, we have a global audience. It's primarily made up of chief AI officers of Fortune 500 companies, government, AI entrepreneurs, AI policy leaders. So I'll throw some questions at you. Either of you can answer.
Excellent.
So I'll start with the topic that has been pretty hot recently, this Anthropic's Project Mythos. Okay. 2 weeks ago, Secretary Bessent called leaders of major banks, CEOs of major banks, and expressed a concern that our financial infrastructure was at risk.
Mm-hmm.
A week later, Bank of England did the same thing, and now a few days ago, we just heard OpenAI also with their new platform has been in conversations with the administration about vulnerabilities in the infrastructure. So there are two perspectives to it from our audience, that AI is helping us identify vulnerabilities in our critical infrastructure. Let's take banks because you have a banking background.
Absolutely.
But it also can give an opportunity. Why? That's the reason Mythos has not been released publicly. It's part of Project Glasswing. So what does it say? Do the defenders have an advantage here? This is our chief AI officers who are having these conversations with the CISOs in these organizations, or is it the people who have these tools from an offense standpoint? And what would be your advice to our chief AI officers who are listening as to what should they be doing and what should they be worried about?
Well, first I would say make sure you're scanning the market and understanding what the latest is. This place is changing constantly, and being ahead of it, I feel like we're on a treadmill and this treadmill is getting faster. And you have both the nefarious actors and the people that want to do good. And I could tell you that the people that want to do good need to keep training themselves and understanding the capabilities of these new models and how they're working. And so you have to stay on top of it because the nefarious actors are staying on top of it. So the reality is, who can use the tools best are the ones that are actually going to be able to find creative ways to use these tools to solve their objectives. And so in my mind, I want the guys that have our best interest in mind to be ahead of the game, have early access to some of these tools, and maybe working with the companies like Anthropic to have early access to these tools so that they know what's coming and they know how they need to patch themselves up, what they need to protect themselves. And that's why things in quantum computing and what I'm doing in quantum computing is very important because the access to quantum computing is going to be a lot harder to give it to nefarious actors. So in that instance, only the people that are doing well and big companies are the ones that are going to have access to it. But Rebecca, I'd definitely love to hear your perspective on it.
So Claude Mythos has made a big splash recently, and everybody's asking about it, right? I got to study symbolic systems AI back at Stanford when deep learning was just becoming a thing and everybody was worried about deep learning. Mm-hmm. And now, fast forward, we have reached this point that we all knew was coming, right? The Claude Mythos is particularly relevant to the cybersecurity world because it's really, really good at finding those vulnerabilities before, in some cases, before your teams that are supposed to be identifying and patching those vulnerabilities. So, of course, people are worried about them. Both of us work to some degree in the cybersecurity side addressing the quantum threat that's coming down the pike. And a lot of people have heard of this too, right? The quantum threat is something that comes in and just fundamentally breaks the what underlies digital privacy. But there's really no difference in practice between quantum and AI in terms of the impact. They're both just enabling technologies that mean both the threats and opportunities are coming faster and more dynamic. So I think the key message to get across here is cybersecurity programs are moving from these like static things where you get big vendors to put technology in and to cyber resilience programs. It's no longer cybersecurity, it's cyber resilience. And it's because the defenses need to be as adaptive as the threats are becoming.
So just to follow up to both of you on this, our program is, a lot of it is our community is the chief AI officers. So first question would be, should the chief AI officers think this is a CISO problem, I'm not going to worry about it? That's question one. And the second thing is, Steve mentioned that it is happening and things are changing so fast, and the scale is so big. What do organizations do to keep up with this change? Is it the government's responsibility to make sure this happens? Is it the companies? Is it the chief AI officer? Has the role of a CISO changed in this process? Because there is a lot of confusion with what everybody wants to use AI, and we'll get to the quantum in a little while, but just to tell our audience what should they be doing, I would love to hear from both of you.
Yeah, I think what you need to do is make sure you're hiring people that have the curiosity trait. People have to be curious. They have to be experimenting. They have to be understanding, because I could tell you I work with a lot of AI experts, true experts. I mean, these guys are legends in the field. And even when I have conversations with them, they say, I'm shocked. It's just incredible how fast. There's so many people doing so many different things. So having a good team that have the curiosity to keep learning and working and understanding what these tools are key. I think everybody has a role to play. Number one, risk is everybody's responsibility. So it's not just, hey, that's that team there, because I can tell you if we lose, the whole team loses. I would say government has to look at this and understand it well enough and educate themselves to put in proper regulation. And I'm not talking about regulation to stifle progress, but I'm talking about regulation to, there are certain things that we know they have to put in place so that we can protect customers and protect people's data. I think that's very important. And I think everybody needs to take personal responsibility. I know that a lot of people are nervous about AI taking their jobs and all of this. I think part of it is educating yourself, understanding what it is, and not just depending on hearsay. So I guess, Becca, I'd love to hear your perspective, and I hope I didn't steal all the ideas.
You said all the good stuff. No, just a quick point on the governance and policy. We have crossed a line into an era where policy can no longer keep up with how fast technology is moving forward. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of time briefing senators and congresspeople's offices, as I imagine you do as well. And things just can't move fast enough in regulation to be ahead in the ways that organizations today need to. So it is 100% on the organization today to be able to navigate through this jungle, which is often confusing, and we're all creating maps at the same time as we're following them. But the chief AI officer should be very much working together with the CISO, and it is, again, they should be working on this cyber resilience program.
So since you've talked about the jungle, let me take the jungle analogy a little bit further. Agentic AI is the topic du jour. Every chief AI officer that I speak to a lot of them every week, they are either looking at it, well, now they're past looking, they're implementing it across the board in their organizations. But when you automate workflows and give goals and decision-making capabilities to these programs, it does open up its own Pandora's box of vulnerabilities and opportunities. And I've had chief AI officers of some of the largest cyber companies on our conversation here, and they've talked about spending sleepless nights thinking about rogue agents and things like that. I want both of you to address to our chief AI officers, do you have concerns about their implementing AI agents, and what should they be doing in terms, whether it's a governance framework, a policy framework, or anything else across the board, because they don't want to be left behind because their competitors are doing it, and this is truly transformational. I mean, OpenClaw and all those other great stuff, and we'll talk about that. So let's start with you, Rebecca, this time.
We're not yet at a point where we should be offloading 100% important decisions to AI, to agents. We often in business conflate, sometimes falsely, confidence with competence, and it is AI's job to come across confidently with an opinion. But AI still is very smart in certain things and very not smart in other areas. You need to be very careful right now about offloading decisions and instead offload research. But you need the smartest people at the beginning and the end saying, this is exactly how we're setting this up with the end in mind. I know this is the outcome I want to achieve, whether it's a governance framework or setting that up, critically thinking through that, and then letting the agents support that process. But every decision should still be checked by people who understand what the desired outcome is.
Yeah, you mentioned governance frameworks, you mentioned policy. I guess I would ask, do you know what your policy is, and do you know your governance framework? It would be good to understand that, because then you know what the kind of guardrails you're working with. And then I would say past that is, what systematic ways do you have to manage that? How do you know your policies are being managed? You can't do that with humans doing. You've got to come up with systems, and there are applications out there. I'm not trying to pitch a company that I have, but there are applications out there that are actually looking at that. And I find that to be one of the biggest things, is that people say, yeah, we have policies, we have governance, but if you can't enforce those policies and governance, that's where you're running into risk. Because if people are putting sensitive data, PII data, out on open models, and you're training models with some of your IP and you're giving out information that you shouldn't be giving out. So understanding what can I use this model for versus another model that we built internally is very important. I would say even having processes about, what data can be used anywhere, and then having a systematic way to make sure that gets managed is very important.
On that point, just practically what I recommend to everybody is send your employees through training, because it's more intuitive for engineering teams to understand kind of the barriers and the rails and the security of these tools. But for your employees who have never been on the engineering side of things, it's completely new. And both security side, and I've also seen people waste a lot of people's time putting together, here's a project plan, go ahead team, go execute on this. And half of the project plan was hallucinated, but no one did the due diligence to look and scrutinize. So train your people.
Yeah, and Sanjay, one thing, if you're the head of AI, you're going to have shadow AI teams out there. And so it's not just so much what your team is doing, it's about all these other teams that you don't have direct control of, and knowing what they're doing and helping manage that, I think is going to be key. Is kind of, how do you manage everybody that wants to use AI, went home, found something out and says, hey, I want to apply this, but don't understand the danger that they're putting themselves and the company through, which is very important.
So, two just follow-on questions, because agentic AI is a very critical topic for our audience. One is, Rebecca is kind of hinting at a human in the loop kind of thing, or maybe not hinting, just overtly saying that you need to have a human in the loop. Some of our leaders say that's kind of holding us back because these are goal-driven AI agents and they are given clear goals. So are you saying that a human in the loop, that's question one, is an absolute must? And then, well, I'll let you answer that first.
I use human in the loop like brakes. Imagine driving an F1 car without very good brakes. I would say the better the brakes, the faster you can drive, which means you have more control and you can stop. So yeah, a lot of people say yes, it's slowing things down, but you need that slowdown to make smart, intelligent decisions, because you think about the opposite. You can make very fast, dumb decisions that are going to cost you a lot of money at scale. You don't want that. And so I see it as having the right brakes that makes you more efficient and effective. Personally, if there's no human in the loop, I would be nervous for that organization, and I'd be nervous for that person's position and long-term position. I've seen some very bad stories happen in the industry for very silly things that people get impacted. And sometimes it's not the individual's fault that's in charge, but because they're at the top of the house, they're the ones accountable.
There's a reason that engineering teams have managers, or that there's a VP of engineering. You don't kind of have just a completely flat organization executing and determining what is important and what is not, and producing output that you can then trust is going to be exactly what you were looking for. And that's the same thing with AI, right? We need humans built into the loop as the brakes, as Steve said, in that process deliberately, in order to ensure that what comes out is good. Because as Steve said, 80% of what I see accelerated with AI is just parallelizing junk output. It's complete garbage. So you are, I guarantee you, I work with the fastest, most adaptive AI native companies, and you are not falling behind by putting the human in the loop. In fact, you are probably going to accelerate past your competition by making sure humans remain in the loop in deliberate places.
Just short answers. Steve brought up the issue of shadow AI. There have been discussions that shadow AI in a way might be a good thing because employees are actually using it because the enterprise is probably not, engaging the employees in a way. Is there a way to bring employees out of the shadow, or what should a chief AI officer do for shadow AI, or Steve?
Number one, give them guardrails. Let them know exactly where they can play and how they can play, and let them play. And as they play, because they're SMEs, they're going to find some really good gems. You're probably going to find a lot of people that'll find things that are useless, and that's okay. Let them play, let them understand. But you're going to find some little gems that you're say, hey, this is going to be really impactful. And your job is to identify those gems and then scale them across the organization to say, hey, we can really use this. When you're dealing in a big organization, I dealt in a bank that was 250,000 people. You're going to find a lot of bad ideas, right? And no idea is a bad idea, but you're going to find things that just don't move the needle. But a good 1-2% of those things are going to, and the important part is for you to kind of find those little gems, scale them. Those are the ones that have the biggest impact in your organization. And that's kind of my recommendation.
Steve, just again, to follow up on a very important point you made, our chief AI officers or C-level execs always struggle because there are thousands of use cases, in some cases hundreds of thousands of use cases.
Yeah.
How do you have a matrix or a map from your years of experience, or Rebecca? What can they use to figure out which one should I work on, which one should I not work on?
Yeah, I would definitely say have a knowledge base. A lot of people prove a concept over and over again. We were working in 64 countries, and I could tell you probably all 64 were doing the same chatbot that does the same thing. Imagine how much waste there is there. But if you communicate and are open, and this is why open innovation is very important, is that you put out, I'm working on this proof of value. Then if you want to work on it, come join my team, but don't go out and duplicate it, because either be additive or just wait for our results and then see what you can build on that. So it's important that people know that you're doing this, because if they don't know you're doing it, it's not really happening. And then it's important to publish results. Even if it failed, and most of them will fail. if you're not failing enough, you're not innovating. So I would say publish your results so that we can learn. Learning from this and the amount of people that are doing it is going to be key. So that's kind of how I do it, is like, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is part of the process. And unfortunately, when you're at a bank and you work for a risk department, nobody likes the word failure. But when you're innovating, you're doing it in a sandbox and you're giving people guardrails. That's exactly where you want people to fail. Do not fail in production or operations. That's not what I'm saying.
So failure is good, but not in production and operation, according to Steve. Steve, we are at the Emerge conference here in Miami Convention Center, where quantum is a big theme, and two of you obviously are heavily focused on this. For our audience who really does not understand the intersection of quantum and AI, can you just give just a very brief idea of why is quantum important for AI, from an AI standpoint, for our chief AI officers? Why should they be concerned about it, Steve?
Well, I don't know. So the great thing about quantum is it brings a lot of opportunities, but it does bring concern from a cryptography perspective. And if you're looking at how to protect yourself, it's good to kind of get knowledge about what this technology can do. Quantum is a whole different way of compute. So we're going to talk about quantum computing right now, which has great opportunity with things on simulation and optimization. So a lot of people are very excited about the opportunity within this industry. The hardware is going to catch up. And once the hardware catches up, these algorithms are going to have a big impact for financial services, for automotive, all the different industries. The flip side to it is you need to look at, as these computers get better, they get better at factoring. And if you know kind of what cryptography is based off, it's based off factoring. So I would do a bit of search on Shor's algorithm. Shor's algorithm has been proven that with a strong enough quantum computer, you can break RSA, which is all the encryption you have when you do online banking and everything you're doing, and you break elliptical encryption. And so that time is coming. Governments are already putting policies in place. And what we're trying to do, especially with Rebecca and her amazing application and platform, is support companies to make sure that they are well protected in this. So we're not thinking about today. Today, we're thinking about AI. I'm talking to you about tomorrow and what's coming, but it's coming pretty quickly.
And for context, about 2 weeks ago, Google and Caltech and a few others, they released 2 separate papers. And when we got started in this space, in the quantum security space, in like 2019. The date when a quantum computer would break all of our encryption, it was something like 2045. Google came out a couple weeks ago, and these papers basically said we can do this a lot faster, a lot sooner, both for blockchain, so cryptocurrency and blockchain, as well as when I send emails, when I send text messages, check my electronic health records. So Google moved in its internal migration timeline for getting quantum safe to 2029. And just to give a little bit of background, I came from AI, and I like to say in about 2016, I got bored with AI because there's so many things in theory that we can accomplish with AI, but we're limited in a classical computing world. And so what's the next thing that's going to enable AI? It's quantum computing. It's quantum hardware. So quantum is, in a lot of ways, it'll do a lot of things, but it is the next generation of AI. So you should be investing in both the opportunities that it presents. A lot of the big banks, and Steve helps with this, are building IP portfolios around this that'll be incredibly valuable because it's very good for optimization. And the security side, we need to care about this today. And why I care about this is there's no safe AI future without data security and data integrity. And that is already at risk thanks to this idea of harvest now, decrypt later, where bad actors are harvesting our digital communications and stockpiling those for the day when that quantum computer comes online.
Let's just say it's 10 years down the line. Actually, the Google paper said it's 2029. So 3 years? But let's just say, you know what? I'm going to push that. It's double that, 6 years. If I could go back 6 years and look at your computer and be able to break all the encryption to look at your stuff, you'll have some sensitive data in there, right? Yeah. So these aren't conversations to say, oh, I'm going to wait and see. It's really, about educating yourself and understanding and making decisions from a position of knowledge instead of just like, I'll wait and see. Because this is not one of those things you want to be waiting and seeing what happens.
So I think what you're saying is this is not like Y2K, right? That everybody prepares and nothing happens.
They spent a lot of money and nothing happened because they spent a lot of money to make sure nothing happened. So I would say Y2K was good, but Y2K had a date. I could tell you that if I have the ability to break everybody's encryption and all your community, I'm not going to tell you. And so the difference here is that let's just say, Sanjay, if you had the power of being invisible, would you go tell everybody, hey guys, I can be invisible? No. What makes it more powerful is that you keep it quiet. So the moment that people have this ability to break encryption, you will never know for many, many years. But the damage will be done to do that. So that's why Q Day, we call it Q Day. Yeah. It's a day that quantum will break the encryption. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter when it is.
And we just co-authored a report with Citibank, Citi Institute. Yeah. And it talks about Y2Q or Q Day. And as Steve said, there was somewhere between $600 billion and $1.1 trillion in today's dollars spent on Y2K remediation, and that's why nothing happened. And that's actually a triumph story.
Yeah, but tell about how much they're predicting that if it does impact.
So if we don't get ahead of it, right, if that quantum computer comes online, whether we know it or not, one single successful quantum attack on one of the top 5 U.S. banks could cause cascading financial losses to the tune of $2 to $3 trillion. Just one bank.
Wow. Coming to your point about being invisible, sometimes my audience thinks I'm invisible, but that's a whole separate issue. Finally, Steve, you have mentioned the UAE has come out with their own sovereign AI system. Just for our global audience, do you think a lot of countries should be going down the sovereign AI path, which, from a cultural, language, data security, data sovereignty perspective?
110%. I think it's very important. And I am based out of the UAE. I know they take a lot of pride in the work that's going on. They have a lot of great AI models. But I could tell you every region is looking for that data sovereignty, seeing what data leaves their jurisdiction. So I think building that and having that capability, because if you don't have that capability and you let these other countries lead, they're going to have such an unfair advantage. And the people that are going to be left behind are the people that are just not building for this future. I think the UAE has been an amazing leader in this. They announced a program with OpenAI where they were going to make OpenAI free for all the people within the UAE. They're put in an AI university. So they're taking leadership and they're really pushing it forward. I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing in the UAE. And a lot of people are looking at what they're doing and they also say, hey, we want to do the same thing. So they're actually challenging other people to step up their game.
Finally, Rebecca and Steve, just very briefly an action advice for our chief AI officers, if you can leave for them. Just as an action item, these are chief AI officers of Fortune 500 companies. What would you say to them?
Work closely with your CISO. Work closely with whoever is running cybersecurity, because there is no good AI path forward without getting the cybersecurity right.
She stole an amazing thing, but I would say continuous learning. I think continuous learning, understanding what's going on, hire curious people that are action oriented and want to help. I think part of this is less about closing down and more about opening up. And again, open up about your failures. People learn from each other. And if I could fail once and not have that same failure, fantastic. Unfortunately, a lot of people love to hide their failures and then let other people have those same failures. Work together, open up, see what you need to do. But continuous learning is always the top thing. You want to make decisions based of knowledge and not just guessing of what you're hearing at the water cooler and other people telling you.
So work closely with your CISO, continuous learning, talk to your colleagues, etc. Rebecca, Steve, we have a tradition of doing a lightning round. This is for our TikTok-oriented audience.
Okay.
It's a one-word answers, and we'll try to see what you say. And I'll ask the same question to both of you. Okay? AI or quantum?
Quantum.
AI or quantum?
AI yesterday, quantum today.
He was a lawyer before. Open source or closed source?
Open source.
Open source.
Okay. Innovation or regulation?
Innovation.
Innovation.
Okay. Finally, ChatGPT or Claude?
Claude, Anthropic, they take a harder stance on ethics.
Claude.
I'm going to push one to Steve. I think he might want this edited out. HSBC or McKinsey?
Both. Both are very great organizations.
Okay. Well, this has been a great conversation, Rebecca. Steve, thank you so much. I think our audience has some great takeaways from a security standpoint. Take it seriously, talk to your CISOs, and obviously make sure you stay curious. So thank you so much at Emerge America. It's been such a pleasure to have both of you.
Thank you.